Oh, there's a movie called The Dive. Eric, you want to handle the plot synop? I've been my voice is I'm losing my voice. I have strep throat. I can't talk anymore. You want to talk about The Dive? You want to tell our listeners what it's about? I can't
Yes.
talk. Help.
It's a two-hander. You got May
Family
and
show.
Drew.
Family show.
You son of
Sorry, sorry. Right, Bruce? Family show, Bruce? Sorry. Bruce, Bruce, Bruce is just out of the picture. He doesn't want to say anything because he knows how horrible my comedy is. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
So you got May and Drew, and basically they're going diving deep sea, or not deep sea diving, but just kind of diving, and they're at a part with like falling rocks. So as they're down, let's see, May is the one that gets trapped under a rock underwater, and there's only so much oxygen. So Drew's got to go find help, or MacGyver some stuff to help him. Kind of a lot similar to Fall, but going the other way, not up but down. It's also got kind of 127 hours underwater, but I think where this one kind of goes above and beyond these kind of movies. One, it gets to the point very quickly. Two, there's some personal stuff with the characters, especially May's character, who throughout the movie she like has these flashbacks of things that happen, and a lot of the flashbacks aren't things that actually happen. It's her interpretation of how it happened, which I think is a really good way to kind of show sort of how depression works. Because like you start looking back and, oh, I did that thing. Oh, they hate me. I was such a piece of crap back then. But what actually happened is you said something, and now you're just getting in your head, and your brain's playing tricks on you. So that part was really cool. The suspense and the urgency really worked with what Drew's character had to do to go up. She was making a bunch of mistakes, but there were mistakes that you would make if you're panicking in a way that she does, in a realistic way that she does. This is a kind of movie there's a version of this that's really kind of two-star movie and kind of stupid, where characters make stupid decisions just to further the plot along. I think the stupid decisions are not really stupid decisions. They're things that they overlook or didn't think about or messed up because they're in a panic situation. So even though like characters are doing or make mistakes, it doesn't seem like a plot contrivance when they do it. And then all the personal family stuff really worked for me in this in ways that movies like this typically don't. Like the Shallows. I love the
Hmm.
Shallows, like the middle part of the Shallows, but the beginning part didn't care. The end part didn't care. Just keep the bit with Blake Lively in a shark. That's all I want to see. Like typically with this, it's like there's a version of this movie where they spend 20 minutes talking about stuff I don't care about, and then they end the movie and talk about stuff I don't care about. And I think the best part about this movie is I had no clue whether May was going to make it out alive or not, and I won't tell you whether she makes it out alive or not, because this is that kind of movie. This is the kind of movie. Who knows? You'll have to
Yeah.
watch them. You have to watch and figure it out, because characters might not live through this.
Right.
Maybe
So
they do. Maybe not. I don't know.
right. So May is played by Louisa Krause. She's very good, and they're both very good. And Drew is played by Sophie Lowe. I've always been impressed by both those actors. They've had some really great performances in the past. So that's why I actually wanted to see The Dive, because of Louisa Krause and Sophie Lowe, not because I knew anything about Maximilian Erlenwein, the director, or The Dive. I mean, Bruce and I, several weeks ago, we did this movie called The Deepest Breath on Netflix. I loved it. And even though it was underwater, I was thinking, let's just Eric uh, man this review, and let's let him take this review. This looks like a B movie thing, and I'll focus on other things. I ended up really liking it, and that's why I actually kind of threw an audible, called an audible, and I told Bruce, you know what, this might have some value for you, Bruce. This might not waste your time. So, and I was trying to go tread carefully because I don't want to waste your time, Bruce. Was I wrong on the play to suggest that you see The Dive?
No, you were not wrong. This is a good movie. A couple things I wanted to mention. I think Eric's right on point on like getting to like how it gets to the meat of the suspense right out of the gate. One of the things I wanted to mention about this is it really understands suspense, and that's something very rare to see a true suspense movie where the stakes are set up very clearly, and then the tension is based on the stakes. What I think this has going over The Fall. Is it The Fall?
Yeah,
Remember the name of that? Okay.
that's
Yeah.
right.
The Fall is, okay, right.
Or fall. Is it fall or the fall?
Fall, yeah.
Yeah.
Two women stuck up really high. They can't get off. What are they going to do? If they stay up there long enough, they're going to die. That's it. So there's an indeterminate time period. There's an indeterminate amount of time. And what I liked about it, I did like it, but what I liked about it was kind of the campy way it ended up. This one doesn't go campy. What I think this does really, really well is it has a constant time clock built into it. And they pick the right people to have to do the right things. In other words, to make it more tense, we have the very cool, calm, collected, analytical person stuck under the rock. We have her really emotional, like, let's go have fun sister, who also is going to tend to be more scatterbrained when put under the pressure cooker, which is what happens. So right out the gate, she's stuck under the rock. Stuck woman says to not stuck woman, okay, you have 20 minutes. I have 20 minutes left of air. Do A first, then do B, do C, do not do anything else. Come back, and then we'll go to the next step. Person that is scatterbrained gets out of the water, forgets A, goes to do B, can't get B to work, stays on B for like 18 minutes. Okay, I can't get B to work. I'm going to do D for a little bit. Oh, wait, I got to go back to A. Oh, I falling in the water, and I dropped A. So that therein lies, and that could be maddening for people. And kind of, I think Eric was right about this too, right? It could be maddening, but also it's understandable. And they give her just enough when she does something, or when you're yelling at the screen, like, why are you doing that? She said not to do that. But then she'll do something else. She's like, oh, she didn't say to do that, but that's a good idea. So there's just enough of those things that kind of pulls you back. And she has enough ideas of her own that kind of work, that kind of keep pulling you back and forth, that you are rooting all the way in this movie. And you're constantly, like I said, every 20 minutes there's a new clock and it's running down, and there's stakes for both characters. We won't talk about it, but there's life and death stakes for both characters, not just the one stuck under the rock. And the way they play all that together is really, really, really well done. And this is a fine thriller.
Bruce, like Eric was alluding to, this movie didn't have to be this good, right? Am I wrong on this? It could have been.
And it's a good chunk is the acting and the directing, but it really comes down to the script, because the things they have them do in this movie is what propels it, and it never stops. And it never, there's pauses, like you said, there's little pauses where you kind of get these momentary, like, glimpses into the past, or where they're starting to basically go lose consciousness. So they kind of go into a somewhat of a altered, I don't know, you'll call it a dream state or a fugue state or something, But those are so minor compared to the actual driving force of this movie, which is go, 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 go. So yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Should also point out the amount of MacGyverisms they have in this is pretty genius. Like the way they use the fix a flat was aces.
Aces. Yeah, I speaking aces, I think this movie really is aces. Look, just FYI, before we get to final ratings on The Dive, I did interview Maximilian Erlenwine, pronunciation, my bad on this, on our sister podcast, Find Your Film. You're going to see that in about a couple of days. Regarding that, Bruce Perky asked some really good questions in the interview that I actually employed for that interview. And I do apologize publicly on this podcast to Bruce Perky, because he wanted to ask about the ending of the film. And that ending will be for our Patreon members. But the warning for our Patreon members regarding the ending for The Dive is, Bruce, I apologize. I did not ask all the alternate endings. There were alternate endings in The Dive.
That would have been interesting to know. Yeah.
God,
you can guess. We can guess what the alternate endings were.
But
probably were, but
come on, dude. I really screwed it. And here I am. I'm telling Eric Holmes, every interview you do, make sure you talk about spoilers. And I screw up on the spoiler stuff. You haven't listened to this. My apologies to Bruce and Eric. But at least for our Patreon members, you get to hear Max's take on the end of The Dive. This is a really resonant film too. We have to mention that. It's a very family film in a weird way. Eric, you wanted to say something before we get to ratings?
Yeah, that's it. Just to and not to give away the ending, but to kind of say how this movie the way this movie goes. There's a version in which May dies. There's a version where Drew tries to save May and Drew dies instead. There's a version where they both live. There's a version where they both die. And the way this movie kind of goes, you have no idea until you get there.
Oh,
You'll have no idea how this ends.
very, very good, Eric Holmes. Yeah, very good insights on that. And finally, again, before we go to ratings, Bruce, is there a difference between tons of digital effects and CGI as opposed to practical effects, which The Dive was mainly practical effects, except what the director says a couple of scenes. But did you notice that?
Yeah, for sure. And you could tell it's not green screened underwater. It's not digital underwater. It's really underwater, which it makes a big difference too. And just there's a lot of things in here where they could have thought they were saving money by doing those things, which I don't really think does save money. It just is a different way to do it. And I feel like doing the practical way they did, virtually this whole movie, it just makes it more believable. You feel grounded. You believe when you see the things that might be outrageous, because there's some things in there you might be like, oh, I don't know how believable that is. But by then you go with it because everything else is so believable and grounded. I think that is a kind of a key to a movie like this. Whereas that fall movie, it had to kind of lean into the cheesiness, and which I liked in its own way, but had to kind of lean into the camp because there was a level of unreality to it. And I think that kind of goes with the territory with that movie.
Now, so The Dive, it's in theaters on Friday, but the good news for most of you who are like to stay home like me, it is also everywhere you rent movies on Friday, August 25th. Watch this, whether you're in the theaters or if you're at home. Do not watch it like Greg Srizovansky does on his friggin' iPod or Chromebook. Watch it on as big a screen as you can, because like Bruce and Eric were saying, this has some underwater practical effects, and it is set, a lot of it is set underwater. So if you like the ocean, like our buddy Anderson Gowan, hopefully you're gonna love The Dive. My rating is 4 stars. As Bruce and Eric are reviewing this movie, I feel like maybe I might have rated it too low, but still, 4 stars is a very good rating for The Dive. I do recommend it. Bruce Perky, your rating?
I think I'm going to go 4.5 on this movie. I think that if I watched it, and I watched it alone and I enjoyed it, I think this is a great movie for people to watch together. I think if you're with a group of friends watching this movie, it's tense and it's fun. And it also is one of those movies where people might be yelling at. Everyone's going to say like what they would do when they're watching it. So even if they're upset with what the people are doing in it, they're going to have a fun time watching it. And it's not that long. I think this is kind of a home run.
Yeah. I'm so glad you saw it, Bruce. I was totally not. I was like, Bruce, do not see this. Maybe see this movie. Eric Holmes, your rating on The Dive?
I'm kind of leaning towards 4.5, but at the same time, I'm like, how do they make this movie better? And
Yeah, I kind of was the same boat. I was kind of in the same boat.
And you know what? It is banger season. Hell with it. 5 stars. We'll go 5 stars. Get your shirts at finderfilmpodcast.com.
So that is The Dive. Very, very good.